Good day, everyone. So today we will just continue again our discussion, and let's begin first with the extinguishment or the fire extinguishment. So the extinguishment of fire, okay, is based on an interaction of one or more of the essential elements of the in the combustion process. So with flaming combustion, okay, the fire may be extinguished by reducing the temperature, okay, eliminating the fuel or oxygen, or by stopping the uninhabited chemical chain reaction. So if a fire, okay, is in the smoldering mode of combustion, there are only three extinguishment options exist. So first is the reduction of the temperature, second is the elimination of the fuel, and third, okay, is the elimination of the oxygen. So extinguishing a fire, okay, is somewhat comparable to the elimination of life. Okay? So for example, the cooling of fire may be compared to asphyxiation, okay, such as the elimination of the oxygen supply. So let's go to the extinguishment theory. Okay, so we have four. So let's start with the extinguishment by temperature reduction or extinguishment by cooling. Okay, so one of the most common methods of extinguishment is by cooling with water. Okay, so the process or the cooling process uses an extinguishing agent, okay, wherein the primary characteristic, okay, is the heat absorption. Okay? So water is the best general cooling agent for firefighting purposes, okay, used on Class A fires. So in this method, okay, the water, okay, absorbs the heat, okay, generated at the surface of the burning material, okay, thus reducing the temperature of the material, okay, below its flash point. So that is extinguishment by temperature reduction. So second is the extinguishment by fuel removal, or it is also called the extinguishment of separation. Okay, so in some cases, a fire is effectively extinguished by removing of the fuel source. So this may be accomplished, okay, by either first stopping the flow of the liquid or a gaseous fuel, or by removing the solid fuel in the pot of the fire. So another example or another method of fuel removal is to allow the fire, okay, to burn up until all the fuel is consumed. So third is the extinguishment by oxygen dilution, or it is also called extinguishment by smothering. So this method, okay, excludes the oxygen, okay, from the fuel so that the gases or the vapors, okay, of the fuel cannot ignite, okay, to continue the combustion. Okay? Cannot ignite and continue the combustion. Okay? So lastly, the extinguishment by uh, chemical flame inhibition, or it is also called the interruption of the chemical reaction. So in this method, okay, so this method of extinguishment, okay, is effective only, take note, it is effective only on gas and liquid fuels, okay, as they cannot burn in the smoldering mode of combustion. Okay, so this method is also called the chain breaking. Okay, when we say chain breaking, means to uh, disrupt, okay, the process, okay, or disrupt the chemical process that sustains the fire. Okay, so let's go to next. Fire extinguisher. So what is fire extinguisher? Okay, so fire extinguisher is a mechanical device, okay, usually made of a metal, okay, containing chemicals, fluids, or gases for stopping a fire. So fire extinguisher is a portable device, okay, used to put out fires of limited size. So limited size only. So portable fire extinguishers, okay, they are designed to attack a fire in its initial stage. Okay, so these extinguishers are designed. Okay, they are designed, okay, to be used on fires as soon as possible after the start, okay, and before the fire gets too far along. So these extinguishers, okay, may be able to extinguish the fire until the larger firefighting equipment arrives. So these extinguishers also, okay, are designed, okay, primarily, okay, for the use by people other than the firefighters. Okay, so kahit sino sa atin pwedeng gumamit ng fire extinguisher. So portable fire extinguisher, okay, this offers the greatest potential for immediately controlling the workplace fire. Okay, so their portability and easy operation, okay, often make them ready for use within seconds. So madali mo lang siyang magamit. Okay, so however, okay, the training and education is critical, okay, to know more on the operations and the use of an extinguisher. So the users, okay, of course, should know how to identify the extinguishers, okay, what types are available, and how to use them. Okay, so the selection, okay, of a suitable extinguisher is primarily influenced by the following factors. So first is the size and rate of fire spread. Okay. So second, the class of fire. So for example, okay, ano ba yung type ng materials involved? Okay. So lastly, the training and capabilities of the person using the extinguisher. So take note, okay? Always follow the specific instructions, okay, on a fire extinguisher and familiarize yourself with these instructions prior to an emergency situation. So persons should be trained in the use of extinguishers to optimize their effectiveness. Okay? So how to use the portable fire extinguisher? So just remember the acronym PASS, okay? PASS in order to operate a fire extinguisher. So remember PASS, okay? So for the P stands for pull the pin, okay? A stands for aim the squeezer. Extinguisher, I should say, aim the extinguisher, okay, with the nozzle pointing at the base of the flames, okay? S, squeeze the hand trigger, okay, as you holds the extinguisher upright. And lastly, sweep the extinguisher or nozzle, okay, from side to side, covering the base of the fire. So make sure that you have the right type of extinguisher for the right fire. Okay? So make sure you have the right type of extinguisher, okay, for the right fire. So different types of fire extinguishers is designed to extinguish fires, okay, involving different types of fuels. Okay, so extinguishers are classified as Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D, or the combination, okay, depending on the fire, okay, against their agents is effective. So the class of extinguisher should be on the extinguisher shell. So nakalagay doon sa extinguisher shell. Okay, the picture symbol labeling the system now in use na ginagamit natin ngayon is designed, okay, to make the operation of the fire extinguisher, okay, more effective and safe to use through the use of less confusing pictorial labels. Okay, so the system also emphasizes when not to use an extinguisher. So nakalagay doon kung kailan ba ay when it is not to use an extinguisher on a certain types of fire. So for class A fire extinguisher, okay, of course it is used on fires involving ordinary combustibles, okay, such as what are the ordinary combustibles? This is wood, paper, cloth, etc. Okay, so for class B fire extinguisher, they are used on fires involving liquids, greases, okay, and gases. Okay, for class C, okay, fire extinguisher, they are used on fires involving energized electrical equipment. So for class D extinguisher, okay, it is used first, okay, involving combustible metals, of course. Okay, but take note, okay, take note The most convenient, okay, and safer approach is to use the ABC type of fire extinguisher. So yung ABC type of fire extinguisher, it is the safer approach or the most convenient and the safer approach ay gumamit ng ABC type of fire extinguisher. So, of course, regularly check the gauge and make sure, syempre, make sure that they have not yet expired. So, hindi pa sila expired pag gagamitin mo. Okay, so next is the, ayan, do not use or continue to use an extinguisher if the fire, first, if the fire is spreading quickly beyond the point of origin, of course. Second is the extinguisher is not having any effect or is having an adverse reaction on the fire. Okay. Third, you are putting your life at risk, of course. So lastly, you cannot extinguish the fire quickly, okay, less than 30 seconds. So next, okay, so uh, remember, okay, so saving lives through a quick escape is a far more important than saving property. Of course, mas mahalaga yung buhay natin kaysa saving property. Okay, so an emergency is not the time. Okay, an emergency is not the time to read extinguishers instructions. So if you do not know how to use the extinguisher or the type of materials involved in the fire, okay, so anong gagawin? So first is close the door to contain the fire. So ensure mo that everyone is out of the building. So ensure mo para walang masaktan. Okay? So okay lang sana kung tayo ay yung masaktan. Okay? Haha. So joke lang 'yon. Okay? So ring the fire service, of course. So never go back. Okay? Never go back into the building once out. So wag ka nang babalik. Okay? Mapapasok ka lang, masusugatan ka lang, masasaktan ka lang. Okay? At higit sa lahat, pwede mong ikamatay. Okay? So, wag ka nang babalik. Okay? So, lastly, wait to meet the fire service. So, maghihintay ka na lang kung meron mang darating. Okay? So, next is fire extinguishers. Okay? So, fire extinguishers are provided for first attack, okay, firefighting measures, okay, generally undertaken by the occupants of the building, okay, before the fire service arrives. So it is important that occupants o yung mga tao sa buildings are familiar, okay, with which extinguisher type to use on which fire. Okay, so most fire, okay, start as a small fire and may be extinguished if the correct type and amount of extinguishing agent is applied, okay, while the fire is small and controllable. So habang controllable pa. Okay, so the principal fire extinguisher, okay, types currently available in two. First is the water. So meron siyang color code, okay? It is the solid red, okay? So it is used on wood and paper fires, okay? They are not electrical. Foam, yung color code niya is blue band, okay? The flammable liquid fires, okay? So they are not electrical. So carbon dioxide, or the black band, okay? So the electrical fires, dry chemicals, they are white band, okay? Flammable liquids and electrical fires also. So wet chemical, okay? So it is for oatmeal band, okay? So fat fires, ito yung mga fat fires, they are not electrical. Special purpose, of course, yellow band. Tawag dito ay mga yellow band. So various example nito yung mga metals or metal fires. Okay, so fire extinguisher locations must be clearly identified. So extinguishers are color-coded according to extinguishing agent. So the most important thing to remember, okay, is that the firefighting must always be secondary to the safety of the people. So yun yung lagi niyong tatandaan. Okay, the most important thing to remember is the firefighting, okay, must always be secondary, okay, to the safety of the people. Okay, so let's go to next. Yan. So arson investigation or fire investigation. Fire investigation, okay, includes the observations of everyone's involved. Okay? And at the fires themselves, there are many firefighters who will be able to shed light on the nature of fire, okay, its progress, at kung ano-ano pa. Okay? And one of the most difficult problems to solve is to determine the cause of fire. Yan yung pinakamahirap na problema na hindi nating masolve, okay, is yung kung paano ba i-determine yung or cause, okay, the cause of fire, since flames generally consume any evidence of what occurred. Okay? So this is the reason, okay, that the cause of most fires cannot be determined without a long and careful investigation. So, for fighters, okay, mga bumbero natin, okay, they often make snap judgment, okay, at the scene as to the cause of a fire. So, without an adequate evidence or sufficient investigation on which, okay, to base their decision. So, apparently, okay, there's hesitation. So, there is a hesitation on the part of the firefighters to admit, okay, na hindi talaga nila alam. Okay? So they do not really know, okay, what are the real causes or ano ba ang real cause of fire. Since few fires, approximately 4% lang ng mga nagre-report na they are listed as cause known. Okay? So instead, the fire is attributed, okay, to various causes without apparent regard to the actual evidence or to lack of it. Okay? So, some of the favorite, so ito yung mga pinaka-favorite cause listed by the firefighters. Okay? Kapag hindi sila certain sa actual cause of fire, ay kadalasan sinasabi nila that the cause of fire are faulty wirings, okay? Ano pa? Children playing with matches, spontaneous combustion, sparks from stove. So yun yung mga kadalasan na sinasabi nila as the cause of fire. So the very general and indefinite nature of these causes indicates that, okay, in most cases, okay, they are based on assumptions rather than evidence. So no matter how small, okay, of fire, okay, fire must be investigated. So kailangan investigahan talaga yan. So fire investigators, okay, fire investigators provide authorities with information needed to guide fire prevention educational programs and develop meaningful information for training fire protection. So as far as uh, investigation or fire investigation is concerned, okay, it must be defined as the cause that which made the fire start. Okay. Second, the reason that which led, okay, to the cause of fire. Okay, so a motive leading to action. So both cause and reason, okay, must be established to satisfactorily complete a fire investigation. So the cause explains the existence of a fire or the what of investigation, okay? While the reason establishes the why of the fire and investigation. So both cause and reason, okay, are required. So they are required to correctly classify the fire and also to provide guidance in establishing corrective action to preclude the recurrence of the incident. Okay? So fire investigation simply means is the process of determining the origin, cause, and development of a fire or explosion. Okay, so let's go to the basic method of a fire investigation. So using a scientific method, okay, so relating fire investigation to the scientific method. So when we say scientific method, okay, it is a principle of inquiry, okay, that forms a basis for legitimate scientific and engineering processes, okay, including fire incident investigation. So in most fire incidents, okay, should involve the following 6 major steps, okay, from inception through final analysis. So first is receiving the assignment. Anong meron dito? Okay, so the fire investigator should be notified of the incident, okay, what his or her role will be, and what he or she is to accomplish. So, yan yung una. So, second, preparing for the investigation. So, after that, okay, so the investigator should marshal, okay, his or her forces and resources, okay, and plan to conduct, okay, or plan the conduct of the investigation. So after the preparation for the investigation, examination of the scene, okay, so the investigator, okay, should conduct the examination of the scene and collect the basic data necessary to analyze. So next is recording the scene. Okay? The scene should be photographed and diagrammed. Okay? And notes of the progress of the investigation should be made, of course. So valuable empirical data should be noted and preserved. Next is collecting and preserving evidence. So valuable physical evidence should be recognized, properly collected and preserved for further testing and evaluation or for courtroom presentation. Okay? And lastly, analyzing the incident. So in incident scenario or failure analysis should be described, okay, explaining the origin, cause, and responsibility for the incident. So this analysis should be reported in the proper forum to help prevent the reoccurrence. So what are the basic, okay, steps in a fire scene investigation? Ano ba yung mga basic steps? So first, search systematically. Okay? So dito, make a plan. Okay? So have in mind that what you will look for, okay? The way you will look and what you will do with each item found and collected. So be thorough and complete and also orderly. Okay, so second is observe. So use your eyes, okay, of course, ears, nose, and camera if possible, okay, to note the conditions. So observe far, okay, and also spectators. So next is take photograph. So the camera records, okay, it records more details than the naked eye, of course. So establish visual reference, okay, through numerous photographs. So kailangan photographs, okay, each area several times, okay, during the various phases of investigation. So infrared photography, kadalasan na ginagamit, okay, to prove extremely the valuable, okay, or infrared photography may prove extremely valuable since it is sensitive to differences in heat. Okay, so next is work by process of elimination. So this is to establish a checklist and check off each item. So settle on one item. Okay, so magsettle ka muna sa isang item before attempting another if possible. So next is check and verify. So here, do not assume or take for granted. So don't jump to conclusions. Okay, take note, of course, write down all the details. Okay, draw diagrams. This is so amplify notes, okay, with diagrams depicting locations of incidents described. So next is, so what are the types of FAR or ARSON investigation? So we have basic investigation, technical investigation, ARSON investigation. In basic investigation, okay, so what are the purposes? Okay, or under this step, ano yung purpose mo? First is to determine what properly was damaged or property was damaged, I should say. Determine mo the causes and the reasons. Okay, the number and extent of injuries or fatalities. Okay, the recommended corrective actions to prevent the occurrence. So next is technical investigation. So when we say technical investigation, okay, it is an in-depth, okay, investigation to determine more specific details on the causes and effects. Okay? On the cause and effects, and also to establish necessary corrective action. So what are the reasons in conducting technical investigation? So first, is that there is suspicion of arson in connection with any fire. Okay, there's suspicion of negligence or violation of regulations. Okay, next is the cause of any fire is undetermined. So this is to establish the most probable cause. Okay, next is there is evidence of negligence or mismanagement in the fire suppression or rescue operation. And last, there is loss of life or disabling as a result of fire. So arson investigation, it is the direct result of basic and technical investigation. Okay, so next is what are the characteristics, traits, okay, or the personnel or the traits of qualified arson investigation. So personnel who are qualified to investigate fire. So first, he should possess knowledge of investigative techniques. Okay. Second, he should have an insight of human behavior. Okay. Next is should have first-hand knowledge of the fire chemistry and behavior of fire. And lastly, he should be resourceful. Okay, so what are the role of the fire investigator? So first, to determine uh, uh, the role of determine the origin and the cause of fire. So first, who is a fire investigator? Okay, so fire investigator is a specialist. Okay? He is a specialist operating in a unique field. Okay, so he's a person with the field experience and technical training necessary to collect and evaluate the factual information, okay, and identify the criminal activity, okay, in situations where there others perceive only confusion and chaos. So the primary goal of a fire investigator, of course, is to determine the truth. Okay, yan yung primary goal niya, to determine the truth. So in seeking the truth, okay, the investigator, okay, should determine the origin and the cause of fire. So the point of origin of a fire is the location where the fire is started, okay, or the place of the beginning. Okay, so the term area of origin, it is sometimes used when fire originates over a large tract or space, or when the exact point of origin cannot be determined. Okay, so multiple points of origins are said to exist when there is more than one place of beginning, or when several separate fire burn in the same structure at the same time. Okay? So next is the exterior examination. So exterior examination of the fire scene, okay, begins with interviewing the fire department officers, the firefighters, the police officers, okay, that were first at the scene. Kung sino yung mga nauna sa scene. So as the first in company, okay, they may have observations. So sila yung mga merong observations relevant to the nature and origin of the fire. Okay, so the initial interview, okay, should cover the following types of information. So first, okay, were any people or vehicles observed in the vicinity of the fire? Okay, so meron bang tao or vehicles na na-observe mo in the vicinity of the fire? So if so, okay, could their conduct or actions be interpreted as suspicious? Okay, so that is, were they fighting or arguing? Sila ba ay nag-aaway? Okay, were they eager to help or give information? Okay, were they attempting to obstruct firefighting operations? So if suspicious, okay, were raised, okay, kapag sila ay suspicious, so you must record accurate descriptions, okay, license plates, numbers, etc. Next is, was the structure fully involved? Okay, so was the fire consistent with the type of combustibles readily available? Were flames visible? What side of the building was involved? Okay, what color? Okay, were the smoke and flames? Okay, so were the doors and windows open or closed? So were they locked or nailed shut? Okay, locked ba sila? So were entrances blocked? Okay, so for example, by storage. So was forced entry made? And if so, by whom? So kanino? Okay, So, yan yung mga katanungan. Okay? What was the appropriate reflex time? Okay? Were any unusual odor noticed? Okay? May unusual odor noticed ka? Were hydrants, standpipes, okay, and sprinkler systems operational? Are they operational? Okay. So were hydrants black, okay, hidden or rendered inoperable? Okay. Were hydrant stops missing? And yan yung mga, and etc. So yan yung mga tatanong mo. Okay. So after completing the initial interviews, okay, the investigator, ang gagawin niya is he should examine, okay, and evaluate the fire damage on the exterior. Okay, so if possible, walk around the structure. So, maglakad ka, okay, on the external structure. So, note the damage around the windows, note mo yung sa doors, okay, under the sofa, and around, okay, the vents or outside the openings. So where is the greatest? So tanongin mo, where is the greatest exterior damage? Saan ba yung greatest exterior damage? Does it appear that the fire started outside the building? So all of these factors, okay, may play an important role in the spread of fire or the fire spread and amount of destruction. So uh, so next, so with the exterior examination completed, okay, the investigation shifts to the inside of the structure. Okay, so to the extent possible, okay, the investigator should attempt to complete a detailed survey of the structure interior, okay, to wearing the full turnout gear. So remember that a fire damaged building, okay, that a fire damaged building is a dangerous place, and an investigator must evaluate first, okay, its suitability before entering. So, kailangan muna evaluate niya bago siya mag-enter doon uh, sa loob. Okay, so interior examination. So first, wear a full turnout gear or its equivalent at all times, of course. So second, evaluate its suitability. So yun yung sinasabi natin kanina. So you need to evaluate first the suitability before entering. So next is try to reconstruct, okay, mentally and what happened, okay, during the fire. So all observations made during this preliminary survey should be written down. Okay, so next, rooms and points of origin. So by observing the burn pattern and tracking back the order, okay, in which they were formed, the investigator gradually migrates to the area of the most severe damage. So this is usually the area where the fire burned the longest, okay, except when flammable liquids were involved. So take note, okay, a fire generally burns longest at, okay, or near its point of origin, okay, because enough oxygen is available there during an early age, okay, or stage. So therefore, the room with the greatest damage, okay, is most apt to be the room of origin. So locating this room is very significant because it contains the point of or the area of the fire's origin as well as close to its cause. Okay, so first, record, photograph, and sketch the fire scene. So if the investigator finds several distinct points of origin, each must be carefully examined. Okay? So the crime scene, photographs, sketches, and notes should clearly show that the multiple points of origin were not the result of the normal fire travel, okay, flashover, or burning having been moved during the suppression, overhaul, or salvage operation. So second, next is fall down fires. It is also known as the drop down fire. So it is the burning of the material falling to the floor. Okay, may indicate multiple points of the origin. So the discovery of the multiple points of origin is a prima facie evidence that the fire was of incendiary origin. Okay, so since such condition is highly improbable, and impossible under normal conditions. So after completing the preliminary scene evaluation, okay, including the documentation of utilities, doors, and windows, okay, the fire investigator should have evaluated areas of lesser damage back to the greatest area of structural damage in tracking the fire to its the place of beginning or point of origin. So that's all for today. So thank you for listening. God bless everyone.